Okay, so the countdown has officially begun. Today's March 1st, 2023, and my expectation is that sometime in the month of March, we, as in Stronghold Digital Mining, will be finally having the fourth quarter 2022 conference call where the company goes over Q4 2022 results and hopefully is able to provide some context and color as to what's going on right now in Q1 2023. That's the quarter we're in right now. Bear in mind that it's not just about releasing quarterly results. The company's 10K also is going to be coming out. And if I'm not mistaken, we then have a glimpse of actual audited financials. Not to suggest that there's anything wrong with the financials that have been put out in the past, but they are typically, it seems, listed as pro forma financials. So once things get audited, I don't expect there to be any change, but nevertheless, it does take more time, effort, and energy to put together audited financials. And because the 10K comes out pretty much at the same time as Q4 2022 results come out, it's understandable why this process takes a little bit longer. And that's a good thing. Don't want to rush it. Don't want to have something come out that then has to be revised later. So better to be slow and steady and precise with what's being released. So let's start a countdown. Beginning today, March 1st, 2023, a countdown towards the date when we finally get to hear from our friends in management. We find out what actually happened in Q4 2022, which I'm really excited to hear about. And perhaps even more importantly, we kind of get a better sense of where we're at right now. Because let's face it, the stock is pretty much doing well relative to where we started at the beginning of the year, right? So that's good. But it can become a little bit frustrating. And I feel the frustration out there with this sense of, man, like, what's happening? When's the stock going to really skyrocket? Is it going to skyrocket? What are going to be some of the catalysts that we can kind of look forward to and really hope for that will move our company in a far better direction? Because right now we're very stable. I mean, the company's taken a lot of proactive steps to stabilize things so that we're not really at any meaningful risk of going bankrupt or experiencing any significant problems from that perspective. Needless to say, right, it's a risky business. Life is risky, so never say never. But at this juncture, I definitely know that we've taken every possible action that we can take as a company to stave off the type of unforced error that could otherwise cause a business to go belly up, so to speak. So in that department, we're doing great. But really, what's going to be the catalyst going forward? I think it's always been Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin, needless to say, has been trading somewhat erratically. I mean, it really took a nosedive, as we all saw during 2022. Now we've started to see it kind of regain a little bit of footing, but needless to say, nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody can really predict with any absolute confidence where the price of Bitcoin is going to be, let alone tomorrow, let alone in a month, 2 months from now, that kind of thing, right? But our business is really contingent on Bitcoin doing well, right? If Bitcoin really does well, that's going to be a huge catalyst for revenue growth, which then can be translated into a positive adjusted EBITDA, and hopefully, right, maybe at some point in the future we'll even see some positive earnings. All of that being said, grid prices, as we saw towards the end of 2022, can be phenomenal, and they can really act as a great alternative to Bitcoin. However, there are times when, as we've seen, grid prices can be a lot softer. The good news is, as I've said many times before, but it bears repeating, we can always take advantage of really low, sluggish, anemic grid prices to import, right? To buy that power from the PJM grid and then use that ultra cheap electricity to power our Bitcoin mining machines and then really generate a nice profit margin between those two numbers. And that's what we've obviously been doing. But needless to say, that's going to keep us kind of like, hey, it's going to keep us in the game. It's going to keep some, some profitable revenue coming through, some useful revenue coming through. But in terms of like a real catalyst, a real, sort of like fuel for a rocket ship that has the potential to really blast off, that's going to really probably come more so from Bitcoin price appreciation in conjunction with network hash rates remaining somewhat reasonable. I've observed many times now situations where the price of Bitcoin really hasn't changed, but the network hash rate will change. And as a result of that, it does change our mining economics. So for example, if you have Bitcoin prices, say around, I don't know, like $24,000, $25,000 per coin, but then you see, these fluctuations in the network hash rate, you go from like 280 to 350. I even saw 406 recently. That's going to have a material impact on the Bitcoin, Bitcoin dollar per megawatt equivalent pricing. I know that's always a bit of a mouthful. It's going to have an impact on that number, and that's going to have an impact on our ability to profitably arbitrage cheap PJM electricity, right, against that other number, right, which is the Bitcoin, priced in dollars per megawatt hour. So the higher that number is, right, the higher that Bitcoin, priced in dollars per megawatt hour is, that's good for us, right? That can be a really, really useful thing. But the higher the network hash rate is, unfortunately, it does tend to suppress that number. The good news is, on average, we've been doing really well in that department, although it's not really something we have under our control. Again, we can't control grid prices, we can't control Bitcoin prices, and we certainly cannot control network hash rates. All of that being said, it's the first day of a brand new month. I'm really excited to see what happens this month. Let's do a countdown. Let's do a video every day until we finally get these results. Let's try to start building some positive momentum, because I do suspect we're going to get some pretty decent results, if not extraordinary results, really, for Q4 2022. But I'm really intrigued, as we all are, right, to get some official color and commentary regarding what's going on right now in Q1 2023 and what might be in store for Q2, as well as the rest of the year. Although, hey, let's keep it real. It's very tough to predict, very far out. This is a very dynamic business, very dynamic. A lot of things can happen. I think the best we can hope for is, hey, Q4 2022, let's find out what happened, and then let's get a sense of what's going on right now, because I think that's going to really help us get a better sense of, hey, if this is what's going on right now, well, all right, we can perhaps then extrapolate that a little bit forward to maybe Q2. But for right now, March 1st, 2023, let's count this down till we get these results.